Welcome to the latest edition of This Racing Live. This week we look forward to the Bet365 Gold Cup at Sandown Park with Andrew Cooper. Plus we take a walk down memory lane with a man who worked under the legendary Fulke Walwyn, a record 7 times winner of the famous race. And here's what's also coming up in the show. Last year's Bet365 Gold Cup winning team of Mark and Sarah Bradstock give us an update on how Carruthers is getting on in retirement. We also look ahead to what the 2019 flat season holds for Mick Shannon and the West Ilsley team. But first, Saturday sees the 63rd running of British racing's longest commercially sponsored race, the Bet365 Gold Cup. Sandown Park clerk of the course Andrew Cooper gave us a whistle-stop tour of one of the most iconic jumps tracks in the land.
So here we are at the start of the Bet365 Gold Cup at Sandown Park. The distance of the race is 3 miles 5 furlong. This start is actually shared with the 2-mile chase start here, which the Bet365 Celebration Chase will be run on the same day. Longish run to the first fence. It's the widest fence we've got here at Sandown Park. Maximum field of 20 now able to compete in these races from this start. As you can see, uphill, and for the first 2 circuits of this race, all runners will jump the left-hand side of the fence you can see in the distance, which is the open ditch. So the field have jumped the first fence in the Bet365 Gold Cup, carry on up the hill, and on this circuit, and indeed on the next circuit, the field stays over to this left-hand side and faces another stern challenge of jumping here at Sandown, which is the first of the open ditches. And there are 2 of these on the circuit. There's another one down the middle of the back straight. And what makes this different from a plain fence is the fact that you actually have this open ditch on the takeoff side of the obstacle. It does just make it more of a distance for the horses to cover. The height of the fence is identical to a plain fence at around about 4'6". As you can see, we lace this with, actually this is an artificial fern that lasts several years and presents a nice apron to the fence. So having jumped the first 2 fences, the horses have a run of about 3 furlongs. Uphill to the highest point of the course, up near the trees up there, over a crossing, and then on this downhill section of the course, downhill into the 3rd fence in the Bet365 Gold Cup. It's also the first fence here in 3-mile races. But it does, having come downhill, the ground sensibly sort of levels off as the horses approach it and climb slightly into the takeoff, because the ground, as we'll see, does fall away a little bit on the landing side and runs downhill. But touch wood, it's a fence that jumps reasonably well. You sort of, from my perspective, running the racing here, you're always pleased to see the field get over this particular obstacle, because it does come at the end of a downhill section where the horses will have, particularly on the first circuit, probably generated quite a bit of speed. Here we are on the landing side of the downhill fence. Interesting enough, the ground actually is probably 5 inches or so lower one side to the other, but the actual where the horses land is very level, and it's quite interesting actually where the landing damage is on this fence. Horses are sort of landing here, where on a level fence, on more level ground, you'd probably be expecting that sort of damage to be sort of somewhere back here. And it just does sort of show the impetus that horses racing downhill do gather at this particular jump. Hopefully we're safely over this one. Carry on downhill for a section, and then right-handed bend, and quite a sharp right-handed bend actually, into the back straight here and the famous line of 7 fences. So horses have turned into the back straight, they've jumped 2 plain fences, then the second of the open ditches, which is the fence back there, then run across here towards the water jump, which is in the middle of the back straight. It's a smaller obstacle than any of the others, and obviously it's got a spread on the other side which we fill with water on race days. It tends to sort of drain away on the days after, so we fill that up every race day. It's not as far a stretch as it used to be historically. When I first come here, horses were jumping a yard or so more than that. Touch wood again, seems to jump reasonably well. This part of the track is set up for the day's flat racing that is the day before the Bet365 Gold Cup. So that's the flat course which goes that side of the water jump, and prior to racing on the Saturday, that's one of many sections of rail that we'll move on this race course to create the jump course. So a big section of that running rail will all disappear overnight Friday into Saturday to create a clear run from the open ditch to this water jump. So having cleared the water jump, the horses then have a 150 yards or so run towards the iconic railway fences here at Sandown Park, passing on their right hand side the 2.5 mile start. At this point the track is perfectly level, and this is one of the areas where the ground can often get a little bit quicker here at Sandown, largely because the soil structure at this part of the course is quite sandy compared to some of the other bits we've come off, which are almost clay in places. This is very sandy soil, very quick drying, and rarely gets very soft through here, so when we're irrigating, needs a lot of irrigating. So we've reached, as you can tell, the iconic railway fences here at Sandown Park. The railway station was built and opened in 1838. This racecourse opened in 1875, so I think from the word go, these three fences were known as the railway fences. And they do pose quite a stiff jumping test, primarily because they come up quite close. Three fences with about 110 yards between this first one and the second, and a lesser distance, about 90 yards, between the second and the third. And there is a saying, but I'm not a jockey, so I can't really verify it, that if you sort of get the stride wrong on the first one, you're in trouble a little bit thereafter, whereas if you meet the first one right, you're okay thereafter. But as I say, it's a unique sort of proximity of fences in British horse racing, and completes the line of 7 fences down this famous back straight. So here we are at the third and final of the 3 railway fences, the narrowest of the 3. They all taper down slightly in size as they get towards this one. And once over this, there's a long sweeping bend, brings the horses back round to the home straight, and then the approach to the pond fence and the uphill climb to the finish. We are approaching the iconic pond fence here at Sandown Park, fence 11 in the Bet365 Gold Cup on the first circuit, and the third last on the final circuit. Very nicely presented fence. You approach it uphill, the landing side is marginally uphill as well. Tends to jump well as a result. Called the pond fence because it sits very close to a natural pond here at Sandown, which we think this was the site of, around this area was the site of the original priory that Henry II, who we name a race after, created here. And the sort of story goes that the monks at the time used to use this pond for fishing and that sort of thing. So it also acts as a very key part to this day of the drainage system of the course as a whole. A lot of the drains through the car parks or through various parts of the course still come into this pond, and we send them away to the outskirts of the course from various pipes from there. Having jumped what is now the second last, the field move over on the run to the last fence, which is a plain obstacle, as we call them. Obviously the horse is now starting to get tired, jockeys are really going for it. All horses are faced with from here is still an uphill finish, and you know, we've seen so many great finishes at Sandown Park over the years, and races change perspective, change dimension in that sort of furlong or so run to the winning line. Having jumped the last fence, as you can see, the course, or the steeplechase course, cuts across towards the inside of the home straight on what is the hurdle and the flat course. So the horses, although it's a straight line, they are going in a direction towards the inside at that point. So now we're approaching the finishing line of the steeplechase course here at Sandown Park, and therefore the finish of the Bet365 Gold Cup itself. The finishing line obviously runs across the course at this point here, and it forms a perfect 90-degree angle with the last two obstacles that the horses have jumped. So it's a very fair run in and equidistant for whichever horse jumps whichever side of the fence. That's it. I hope you've enjoyed this walk and talk around what is a wonderful race course, a wonderful steeplechase course here at Sandown Park. Tickets are available on the website, and as I say, hope to see as many of you here as possible.
Mick Shannon celebrates his 30th anniversary in the business of training racehorses this year, and he chatted to me about what he's most looking forward to from the current campaign. Last season, knocking on for 100 winners again. Did you view that as a pretty good campaign?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, winners, I mean, obviously it matters to every trainer, but the amount of winners you have really doesn't, you know. Yeah, I mean, I'm just delighted that we probably, what we lack in quality, we make up for in quantity, you know, and I don't think you're supposed to be proud of that, but we certainly got quantity, you know. We're not short of horses or anything like that, and if it wasn't for 60s Icon, I think we had 43 individual winners by him last year, which is unbelievable for a stallion that, you know, I mean, I'm pleased Tom Dascombe's got a good one by him, you know, and but that basically shows you what, you know, where we are with, you know, with our horses. We're probably in the third division, you might say, and but hey, it's still great fun. It's all about having, like you say, it's the buzz of having winners. Ask Archie Watson. He's started brilliantly, and you know, and that's how I started. It was all about winning. You had to have winners. So we used to buy little sharp horses that could, you know, that we could win with. It's a bit different now, you know. I mean, it's become a lot more competitive, and you know, in the 30 odd years that I've been doing it, you know, nothing gets missed at yearling sales now, and it's very difficult. But I'm lucky that I still enjoy it. You know, Jack enjoys it. Michael enjoys it. Although he's down in Australia, we still. And we're lucky we got a smashing place to train from. It's a little bit old and a little bit decrepit, and things are falling apart on it, but it's home, and it's a great spot to be at because we can get around the country, and not that I can get around the country very well, as you've probably seen today, but it's you know, we're very lucky that it's a smashing place to train from, and you know, we enjoy having winners, like you say, and yeah, 100 winners a year would do. If we could do the same this year, I'd be absolutely delighted.
You banged out a lot of 2-year-olds first time up, which is a rare thing for you historically over the years.
Well, it wasn't originally. You know, originally when we started, we used to do that. But last year, though, it was a very wet year, and we were up the grass all the time. And I just feel that they were a bit better horses than 2-year-olds than we've got this year. Certainly the early ones. I think we got some nice older horses. And as I said, by the stallions that we've got, we're having to wait and give them a little bit of time, you know. But we're lucky that, you know, that we've had a few Bungle in the Jungles, which has been a great stallion. You know, we trained him here, and Maurice Burns has done a brilliant job in Ireland, and we got a few of them that have been sharp and got us up and running last year, which was great. And Gregorian didn't do bad either. You know, we had a very nice filly called China that was by Gregorian. So along the way, we've not had the better bred horses, but we've managed to go and find some 2-year-old, you know, some first season sires as they were last year. What they are this year, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But no, I don't think the 2-year-olds are as good this year or as sharp. I think there's some nicer ones to come.
And what role is Jack playing these days in the operation?
Well, Jack's basically almost running it. You know, I mean, you know, I'm here, you know, obviously overseeing everything in that and kicking his backside if he spends too much money and things like that, you know. He's obviously got a lot posher views than I got, you know what I'm saying is. And I mean, he's a vet's dream, you know. He'll have a vet in the yard for every little thing, you know. So, but he's very conscientious. He knows what he's doing. you know, he's been everywhere. He was with Clive Britton, so that's a good experience. And he went to America. He's with John O'Shea in Australia, and he's been to America with
Graham Motion.
Yes, Graham Motion. You know, so he had a year with Graham over there. So he knows everything about the horse game as such. He's got a memory like, you know. He's almost an anorak when it comes to horses, his form and everything else. So I think he's got a lot of patience, though. He's got a bit more patience than me, you know. So let's hope that's a plus. And
is he a kind of conduit to getting new owners, younger owners into the yard as well?
It's strange business that is. You know, as I said, you know, I've trained horses now for 30 odd years. And I don't consider myself as a trainer. I'm a horse dealer. You know, basically I buy and sell horses. I buy them in the autumn and then sell them again in the autumn, and at any time through the year. But you know, I think that he'll have a good start because he'll have a lot of my owners, hopefully. When I eventually, I don't plan on packing in just yet for a few years. That's it. You know, while I've got a bit of life in me, I want to be out. I want to have something to get up in the morning for. So it's not going to happen in 2 minutes, and he's too young at the moment.
And is Junior coming back into the fold at some stage? Mick Junior enjoying himself down in Australia?
Well, we'd love him back into the fold, but he's always done his own thing. He's always his own man, and. He's a character, and he's writing for the Racing Post every 2 weeks. Where we get to catch up with him, but he's loving it. With Chris Waller. I mean, I just had a picture come through with him at Winks's box, you know. So, and his bid at the weekend about Winks was great fun, you know. I mean, that made us all laugh. So.
And you just said that you're a bit harsh describing yourself as third division in the training.
I meant third division in the quality of animals that we got.
So how do you elevate yourself to the Premier League?
Well, listen, you just work away. I mean, a lot of my owners can't afford to pay 200 or 300 grand. I haven't got a problem with that. As I say, you know, people say, ooh, you know, it's not as good as it used to be back in the early 90s, and I haven't got Zaffines and, you know, Queen's Logics and Flashy Wings and all those good horses that were grade 1 horses. But we bought them for next to nothing. You know, Jill Rich, and, you know, she's been brilliant for us at the sales, you know. Although we work with her, you know, she's the one who sticks her hand up and takes it, you know.
I mean, you sort of obviously run a tight ship, and the relativity of money and how much bang you get for your buck is important to you. But we were speaking to Rob, who was here in Major Dick Hearn's time and is here still now with you as well. And he says, you know, anyone can maybe train good horses, but it's getting less good horses to
Well, I've always said that. I mean, basically, our job is to maximise a horse's ability. Once you've done that, you can't do anything else. Along the way, if you could nick a bit of black type here or get lucky. And yeah, I mean, you know, you look at, you know, David Ellsworth, he's brilliant, you know, at getting black type for horses, you know. I mean, he runs his horses and he wins Group 1s doing it as well. So did Clive Britton do it. Now I was about to say the same, exactly the same. But they're great trainers, you know. I mean, Clive and David Ellsworth is probably along with senior, with old Richard Hannon, you know. Obviously I grew up with those two. And although we've had our rows and our fights and our disagreements, they were two great trainers, you know. Never forget, Dick Hearn won the Trainers' Championship here, when he was here, with 25 winners. That wouldn't happen today, would it? It's impossible, you know. So you've got to have a lot of winners, numbers, and maybe you lack, as I say, you're more about quantity than quality, but the great thing is that they've all survived and survived very successfully.
Last year's Bet365 Gold Cup winning trainer Mark Bradstock was assistant to the legendary Fulk Walwyn. 7 times winner of the Whitbread. One of those taxidermists was ridden by a certain John Lawrence, better known as Lord Oaksey, and of course was owner of Carruthers and father of none other than Mark's wife Sarah. Nick Lightfoot recently visited Mark and Sarah's Old Manor stables in Letcombe Bassett to see how Carruthers is getting on in retirement.
Carruthers really is a pet. He's just, he is a legend. You can put a baby on him and he'll walk around this yard tiptoeing so that they don't fall off him. You can put Mark on him up the gallops and he'll run away with him.
Is that saying something?
Yes. No, I wouldn't quite say that. But, and you're just a good old fella, aren't you?
He's been such a special horse and a bit of a symbol really for you and your family all the way through, of course, bred by your father. And then to do what your father won a Hennessy, and then over half a century on this fellow wins a Hennessy as well for the whole family, which is an incredible, incredible day.
I know, and dear old Dad had lost his mind a bit by then, and after he'd won, you'd go to watch it with him and you'd say, do you think he's going to win, Dad? No, he'd got no chance. So the excitement happened every time. He could
on all the reruns?
Yes, every time he saw it happen again, he'd forgotten the next time. So it was a wonderful thing for him, is that he could see Carruthers winning the Hennessy with new excitement every time.
What's he been like as a character since he retired? Because he hasn't raced under rules since 2016. He had a spell pointing, didn't he?
He had a spell pointing, teaching Lily the game, and he was very funny about pointing in Ladies Open. Don't tread on the rope. Look, that's really stupid, Carruthers. He had a spell pointing, and he thought that they went much too fast in Ladies Open, so there was no question of him making the running. And then he'd catch sight of them beginning to stop and finish like sort of a Razzi. And he won one. He actually should have won a Hunter Chase at Fontwell. He got a bit done on the bend and he took a bit of a view about that. He did always take a view about other horses, because when he was racing at his best, he was racing against things like Denman, who were towered over him. And he got squeezed a few times, and he became, later on in his career, very worried about what someone else was going to do. He spends the summer at Oaksey in the field, and then he comes back here in the winter and he goes up the gallops and runs away with people, does a bit of schooling. He had Graham Bradley on him schooling the other day, and I said their combined ages must have been older than any other combination schooling that fast over fences for a long time. And he sort of does what he wants to do, really. He liked going to Cheltenham and parading, although we were late. And
I suppose he's in the box adjacent. He's got his little brother Coney Gree, who is sprightly enough to perhaps keep him fresh as well, or does he keep him in check? This is the brain of the family, and certainly when they're out in the field, I've seen Max trying to bully him, and Carruthers doesn't have to do anything. He just looks at him and says, "Get out," and he's the boss. He's the boss of everybody, really. One day when he'd run in some race, and it was the summer. And he's the only horse who's allowed to be out on this lawn loose, because he wouldn't do something stupid like Coneybury would run onto the concrete. And I'd forgotten to put him away, and it was about 9 o'clock at night, and I thought, oh my God, Carruthers on the lawn. And I went to the door, and I opened the door, and he looked at me, and he put himself in his box, and he shut the door. He's truly a legend, and he doesn't like being left in the field. That's what all these people who are anti-racing, wanting these horses to be left in the field, they're miserable. They like their 5-star luxury accommodation. And he loves watching the world go by and just doing things.
Chris Jerdon's long and distinguished career in racing will shortly come to an end. CJ is forever associated with Oliver Sherwood's Grand National Many Clouds, but he also worked for the legendary Fulk Walwyn and shared with us his memories of the two horses who helped his former boss to a record 7 Whitbread Gold Cups.
Diamond Edge putting in a new challenge at the last fatherly lady after the years. Diamond Edge clear from Benton Claus, going up the line, and Diamond Edge is finishing strongly. Diamond Edge comes through to take up the running. Diamond Edge now in the lead from Father and Lady, coming up to the line. Diamond Edge is the winner. At the last, they took it together, landed together, with Diamond Edge racing in between these horses again. It's plundering, let off. Diamond Edge rallying, Special Cargo coming with a run, and Diamond Edge is coming through. Diamond Edge just coming through to shake that up. Special Cargo finishing well, a three-way photo with a whip red.
1980s was a great time to be at Fulke Walwyn, particularly when you're associated with a race that he loved to win, and the Whitbread, now the Bet365 Gold Cup. You were around with him when horses like Diamond Edge and Special Cargo were strutting their stuff.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was always a bit of rivalry because they were down the bottom yard and we were at the top yard. So there was, even though it was all together, like, but there was that bit of needle about it when they won or we won. I mean, it was a bit of a friendly rivalry, really.
What sort of horse was Diamond Edge? Because he was classy enough to carry weight in a Hennessy.
I always remember the governor saying he was the fastest horse what he trained over a fence. And when you look at the pictures, the old television pictures, he was quick over a fence, absolutely electric. And he was a big horse. He came from Devon. Come from Devon. A vet owned him, Mr. Luffridge, I think it was. And I remember Stuart Shilson rode him in his first race, and he came off him. I think he came off him at Chepstow. Not too sure. It was a big, powerful horse, anyhow. And but he never looked back after that. He was just, he went up to be a Gold Cup class horse.
And what sort of training performance was it to get him to win a Hennessy and to win 2 Whitbreads?
Well, he took, the governor gave him an awful lot of work to win it. I remember to win the Hennessy. He was an awful lot of work up man down, but he was proved right because he knew he had to be fit to carry top weight in the Hennessy to win it, because he'd won 6 Hennessy's before, and so he knew what it took to win a Hennessy, and he was exactly right.
Knew what it was like to win a Whitbread, didn't he? 7 off them.
7,
that 7th coming courtesy of Special Cargo in '84. That was one hell of a race. You don't get photo finishes with 4 separated by nostrils.
Especially
like
for a big race like that. No, you don't. I remember Lord Oakley saying it's the best race he's ever seen, and a lot of people probably. Yeah, it's just I mean, they should show these pictures again, really. You know, just to see what kind of race it was.
Yeah, I watched it just last night and again this morning. Kevin Mooney, who rode Special Cargo. Yeah. You had Bill Smith, of course. He stayed loyal to Diamond Edge.
Well, he won't get off. I know he was a royal. He was a Queen Mother's jockey, but Kevin used to ride a lot of ones Queen Mother. So I think he had light weight. I'm not too sure if Bill could have done the weight. I wouldn't like to say. You know what I mean? I think he had. I don't know what weight Special Cargo had, really, 10 stone something. And but Kevin could do the weight anyhow, and Bill. It'd be very difficult to get off Diamond Edge anyhow.
Kevin said he thought he was always going to get there.
Well, I think that was a bit tongue in cheek of Kevin, but up at the running. Well, you didn't know he'd get there until the last on the line, really, did you?
And for the Queen Mother to win a big race like that in a thrilling photo finish like that, what sort of owner was she to have around that?
She was brilliant, a lovely lady. She knew her horses. She absolutely adored her horses, and she was brilliant. I'm glad that she won a race like that. She had a nice horse like that. So and for the governor, to train, and he trained a 300th winner as well. So it was really nice to especially to come from Peter Caslett's to bring all the horses to Saxon House. It was good.
Well, that's it for the latest edition of This Racing Live. Make sure you tune in next week for more insightful and entertaining stories from the world of horse racing. Bye for now.